It is a crisp autumn day today and chill but not cold. Sun is still out. Fresh air, which is very, refreshing. And things are moving along as they ought to. I just heard a tidbit from Vicki Dillard regarding handouts and giveaways to farmers, basically to white people. And it reminds me of a little book from the Nation of Islam. The book is a little small black book that says how white folks got so rich. And what Vicki was expounding on was how they stay rich. And it is through government handouts and giveaways. So I just saw it for today. It was regarding farmers receiving billions of dollars in bailout, why black farmers didn't receive much of anything. And this is always the way it's been. It has been the central methodology of this country to have kept it intact and held together. The oligarchs, the very rich and powerful aristocracy that left Europe, particularly England, and the English folk who went with them and came here to this landmass. They were given all kinds of decrees and ordinances of how they were to conduct themselves. The number one was a paper bull by the Pope to reduce us, the original inhabitants of this landmass, now called America, to reduce us to lower than the beast of the field. And that they were not to basically ascribe any type of humanity or human qualities to us, which would have been easy for a people like that who at that time had a long history of barbarism from, again, the Vandals and the Visigoths and the Vikings in particularly. Things that now they still celebrate, the debauchery and the inhumane ways of tearing up the human body and destroying it and killing it. And not one day have they turned back from that type of behavior. It is almost as if they were born with it. But of course, America is out of two prominent resources. One is money and the other is time. And so as far as them printing money for a debt that they cannot pay, and a country they can no longer make whole, they are now left with facing the people that they have propped up and telling them the truth that their country is in essence no more. And because this great truth would consequently perhaps maybe mean their lives, and I say perhaps maybe, but we know the truth, it would mean their lives. They have sought to carve out spaces from them for themselves, and I'm talking about the ultra rich, those that control the levers of this land, those whose great grandfathers have set it up this way. They know that there's not much they can do about it. And so, because of their refusal to face the truth and having the truth set them free, they will go ahead and continue with the lie to the bitter end. But apparently on the video, it's not surprising. The farmers, the white farmers, were getting free money to hold up their farms, and the black farmers were getting what they always gotten, what we've all have always gotten, much of nothing. And yet, you haven't heard any news about black farmers losing their farms across the land. Sometimes going through strife really toughens you up, and it forces you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do if you were receiving goodies, gifts, and giveaways and free money. The truth is, the biggest welfare recipients of free money has always been white people, the majority of white people. It hasn't been anything else but that. And, we have to understand that is that they won't stop. They would have to be forced to be stopped. I don't even know if white people, I don't, this is a hard one. I don't think they have the ability to produce justice. And if, at least not en masse, there may be a few here and there. And then we have to contend with the fear that they have about a number of things, about their own survival in the universe as a genetic recessive, and also to the lands from which they originated from are resource poor. And the third and most important thing is that their heart, mind, body, and soul has wholly been given over to the great Satan, who is now completely bound along with the demons. So it is very clear to me that they can do nothing but go with what is on its way, or not even on its way, what is actually here now. You can actually see that, you can feel it in the air that things are, the power is gone from them. And I think now that what lies ahead for us is the courage to take over and to get to New Jerusalem and to be a part of the manifestation of New Jerusalem and of the slaves breaking free from them and coming to the safe haven states and coming to the areas that the creator of the universe has already bequeathed to us. And this is not a small endeavor that I'm speaking of, because too often I have been reminded that many black folks would rather stay with their master than to be broken away from him and her. Most of them will, or I would say not most, but too many of descendants of American slaves want to still toggle with the machinery and try to see if they can get away in it. And I'll tell you why. As a group, unfortunately, we have a very sick disease of jealousy and envy that enemies have been successful in using against us. I think that was the core issue with Africa. This part of the world, what is now called North and South America, has or is minerally and substantively rich, more so, as we're finding out, more so than Africa. There is historical evidence, although a lot of it has been burned away and suppressed, that both of the land masses absolutely communicated with one another. To the degree we still do not know. But my little bit of the research that I've done is that a lot of what you see in Africa was actually bequeathed, and the intellectual property came from here. I think that's what's the ultimate burial of history, and why when the Vikings got here and when the Neanderthals came over here and started burning, looting, and killing everyone, they were in essence destroying the true timeline of existence. And although there were many great nations in Africa, they weren't the Americas, especially the North Americas, which is where the stronghold of the European was stapled to. I remember as a little girl that it was said that America feeds the world. We don't hear that saying as much nowadays, but doesn't make it any less true. So, ergo's America, ergo's the rest of the world. And that can only mean one thing, that back in ancient times, that was also true. And it has not once been untrue. And so, quite possibly, and there's evidence that even pyramid building began here in North America, north and down the peninsula towards South America, and that ingenuity was actually transported to Africa. And so there was a more unified cohesion between the two land masses, with what America being on top. And that must have caused jealousy with the African continent, with the peoples there. It's the untold story. And so again, this is conjecture, but it is backed up with historians and geologists and scientists who are speculating this. They call it theory now. But it seems like a lot of the technology and whatnot that we even enjoy now was already invented prior to the European coming here. And if you watch My Lunch Break and other shows, they actually go through many of the structures through old pictures, and also just poking out the unreasonableness of the European coming here, building many of the buildings that are seats of power even till this day, that they would even have the know-how to build it on their own. I mean, because the thought is that it was a white man or a white woman, but really a white man. And that's not true. That's a big fat lie. Not when you have slaves, and not when you have the builders as your slaves as well. So there's more to be revealed on this subject. So there's a great truth or truths that have to be revealed. And I think they're going to be stark, but they're going to really explain a lot of confusion that now pervades the world. And that can only happen with the turning over of power. So now we're just getting to the point, if we're not already there, of where the power dynamic is going to have a cataclysmic shift. And but on the hindsight of that, or the other side of that, not the hindsight, but the other side of that, is going to be something wonderful, beautiful, awesome. Of course, for the Hebrew Israelites, the descendants that are now called the descendants of American slaves, it will come to us first, and that it's going to be peace and security, and we're going to be bequeath back our heritage, which is all the technology, all the intellectual property, all of the wealth that was snatched from us and taken from us will be returned back to us. And then we'll come into our right mind and our right hearts for the first time in the last half century, maybe almost a century, because we may hear about that there are probably wars between this landmass and Africa. There is a reason why Africa did what it did to its people, or quite possibly they it wasn't actually their people. It was actually we were over there. In the Americans, the Native Americans were already over there in Africa, and they just kind of just sent us back, sold us into slavery, and said, here they are. These are the people you want. Um, and I guess that they made a devil's bargain, thinking that they would go ahead and prosper with white folks, not understanding that this was a zero-sum game for Satan. He could not trust black people like that, because he knew that we were touched by the creator of the universe, and you don't get to unpack that. No matter what you do to us, you don't get to unpack that. So he needed fresh new people who weren't touched by the creator of the universe. And the people who weren't touched by the creator of the universe were white folks. They have not had a personal experience with the creator of the universe, not one time. But they have had a personal experience with Satan and the demons. And this is why they are the way that they are, and unrelenting and unrepentant about it, because they are from the father, the devil. But on the hindsight of devilry, there is heaven. And so with a lot of effort, and everything's going to be at their disposal when the time comes for them to learn an invaluable lesson. I'm talking about white people here, and even some of the people from the African continent, or a lot of people from the African continent, that the unprofitableness of devil doing is only present for a finite of time. But if you want to progress in the universe, you will not be progressing with that. That there's no room for it. So that's the lesson that we're all actually going to learn, but then more poignantly. So that's it. That's all I want to say. So we can look forward to just a complete undoing of this world. And it was described to me this way, that think of it as when you have water in a bucket, and when you swing that bucket around, the centrifugal force of gravity, which is unseen, keeps the water in. But if you were to hold the bucket in your hands and just turn it upside down, the water comes crashing out. That's the moment we're living in. Satan was holding the bucket and swinging it around and around and around, so keeping things under his and the demons' power, keeping things working as best they can, right? Which is not a perfect alignment, but it's better than nothing. And now that power is been snatched away, what you're going to see is that bucket just being held and turned over, and all the water or the power that white people have had is just going to go. It's going to bottom out, and the people who have benefited with them, that includes the immigrants, all those who were Confederate, all those, and it's basically damn near every country. Every landmass was a Confederate with these people. So you're all going to fill that bucket when it finally turns over and the water splashes out. But the only light in that darkness that is here now is going to be New Jerusalem. And that is going to contain primarily, if only, and most likely only, because that's what the Bible is very strict about, that those people. And then eventually we will be able to go out and deal with these kingdoms when they're ready to be dealt with, and bring them into the fold. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much why we're going through the things that we're going to, and why Three-Eye Atlas and those other objects are in the sky.